thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program veteran musician, bassist for the iconic blues rock band Savoy Brown. We welcome in the very talented Pat DeSalvo. Pat, Brian C., thanks for being on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me on. How you doing today?
Good. My pleasure. And, I want to start, Pat, by congratulating you and the band for your most current new album release titled Blues All Around. Give us a little knowledge on that current release.
Well, as you know, Kim had passed away and
Yes.
Recently, and what we did is we used demos that he had. He was still alive at that point, and we went in the studio. Normally, we would go in all together as a group and record. We'd also rehearse and do our due diligence and get the record where we wanted. This time we had to literally build it from the ground up. In other words, we used his demos. Luckily, he had used a drum machine. It was a click track, so we were able to sync it up in the studio and do the record. The first day we were in the studio, Kim couldn't be there because he was at the Roswell Cancer Institute. I don't mean to be morbid, but I'm just giving you some background on what was going on with us. We hadn't been able to play because of COVID, and we actually, when COVID started, we had just been to the UK. We just did a trip out to Texas and up to Canada. Went in the studio, recorded the record Ain't Done Yet, and then COVID hit, and then everything sort of stopped for everybody. So it was like I think it was like a year or so before we could actually go back on the road. And ironically, the first show we did, which also was our last, was with Foghat. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, is three of the original members of Foghat were in Savoy Brown, and they left to pursue their own career. So the whole thing of going in the studio and not playing together and all that, we were very concerned. But at this point, we have been on the road for 12 years. I actually have done 15 or 16 albums with Kim. So we really had a handle on what we were doing and how we were going to approach the record. So it came out, and you guys have probably listened to it, and I'm actually kind of happy. I was a little concerned about it, and the doubts wore away as we got in the studio and actually started recording.
And Pat, Savoy Brown, a band which formed in the mid-'60s and, which through the years had many notable names on their roster, from Dave Walker of Fleetwood Mac, Black Sabbath, to Andy Pyle of the Kinks, to Paul Raymond of UFO, and on and on. And currently with yourself and drummer Garnett Grimm, both of you being the longest consistent band members in the group's lengthy history, right?
Yeah. And the reason why a lot of this, because people go, how'd you last so long? I had known Kim since the 80s, and I had done 5 records with him before I joined Savoy Brown. So we had a very good working relationship. And me and Garnett both, believe it or not, held full-time jobs down during the whole tenure we were with the band. I do IT work. So the company I was working with thought it was great I was going on the road with Kim, and they were very happy about it. Because at that point, I was on the road prior, and, got married, had children, got a job, and sort of stopped doing what I was doing. I was playing just locally and regionally. But that was one of the key things, I think, is me and Garnett had this work ethic. And we're all a lot older at that point, and we had understood Kim because we both had worked with him on previous projects. So we just didn't come into the band. He knew of us. Like, me and him, I took him to a SU football game one time, and we would go out for coffee. There was a relationship, in other words. So it was, when he asked us to join the band, he knew exactly what he was getting.
And the story goes, if I'm correct, Pat, Kim Simmonds, who's considered one of the architects of the 60s British blues rock scenes, he saw you at a performance, right? Was he there to recruit you or to just catch your performance?
No, he actually came to he did come to a show I was doing, and we befriended each other. Like, this was in the 80s once again. And what had happened is I went in, I got a call to go do a session with him, do an acoustic record, because I played upright bass. So I did one of his solo records, and then I did a couple of records with this guy, Jimmy Cavallo. and Tim was engineering those. And then I did another solo record with him, and then he guest on a record of a band I was in called the Backsliders. So what had happened is, anyways, Jerry, who's from the Long Island, New York area, he had gotten ill, and he just asked me to fill in with some dates. He was going out to the West Coast for about a month. So I went out and did the shows, and then it was understanding that Jerry probably was going to come back, and he asked me to join the band. That's when I joined the band, and then we recruited Garnett Grimm, because we were all living in the same area, and it was great to be able to rehearse and work on the records, and it just became a lot easier for touring.
Now, I've been reading a lot of Kim. He was known throughout the years, Simmonds, to change the lineup. Did that ever worry you when you first got involved with the band?
No, because like I had a day gig, and really I was thinking, like, I'll just ride this out, see what happens, and I wasn't really counting on it for my income because I had my other gig going, and I could always get another gig playing with somebody. So I was able to do my muse and do my work. So no, it really didn't bother me. Yeah, I know he did go through a lot of players. He went through an amazing amount of players, to say the least. A lot of it is, though, what I was leading up to before when I joined the band. Sometimes you get guys, they'll tell you one thing, and then you come in the band, and, he had to keep the band going all the time. He had dates booked, so it's like it's a business, and he has to make sure he makes the performance. So sometimes he would hire people, and they just didn't fit him at that point. And it's his band, that's what you got to realize. This is he started this, so it was all about him, So when you get into a situation like that, you realize, okay, I'm not the quarterback. I'm not the captain of the team. I'm not the coach. I'm a player. So just do your part and do it as best as you can and get through the gig. I had bands I had on the road where I was the band leader, and it was just, you had to do it my way or I had to get rid of you, because once again, we're running a business. We're touring around, we're playing, and you've got to be able to make the performance, and you got to be able to play the gig. And I know everybody has this thing where everybody used to get really, they would get drunk and they would get high, but really, you wouldn't want your dentist doing that. You really got to go out there and be focused and really give these people come in, spend their time, spend money to see you play. You got to give them a good show. I could see having a beer or two, but there's a lot of guys that I know that just, that's their MO. They're there to have a good time along with the fans, but really it's your job to do the best you can, do the best performance. It's only for an hour and a half tops, I think you can let go for a little bit. If that makes sense.
So like, how did the audition go? I mean, yeah, no, it does. Audition. But so did you have to audition for Simmonds?
No, I didn't audition at all. He had seen me play, and I had done 5 records with him, so he knew exactly what he was getting in me. And Garnett, because Garnett had recorded with him too, and he had seen Garnett play. And no, there was no audition, there was no nothing. We just came into the band, and then I started taking over, and I became road manager and helping him what I could with the business. His wife Debbie and him pretty much held that down, but they would ask me for input, and I would give them, I would look at things and evaluate them, give them my opinion on stuff, and sometimes they went with my ideas, sometimes they didn't. Same was in the studio. He would come up with a basic song, and I would go, I think maybe we should do this, or maybe we should slow the tempo down. And when we worked with him, we could do a song in every key, different tempos, different styles, and we would just work it and listen to it, and then, we would, he always had final say, obviously, and then we would go, okay, the song's complete. We had one guy in the band for a short time, and, we would work on something, he thought it was already done. You really, some things just happen. I remember I went into the studio for City Nights, and he played some demos for me as we were driving down to Jersey to record, and we wound up doing 3 of those songs on the record. Really didn't rehearse them. We just sat down, came up with some ideas, took a little time, and we just record them. Sometimes that happens. That's the magic of like the Beatles and Hendrix and and tons of other bands that just go in the studio and they nail it one time, and then sometimes they spend maybe a year in the studio trying to get the record together. It's hard to really create and focus and do stuff sometimes, especially if when these guys are on the road so many days that we get off and record company go, okay, we need a record. Well, we've been partying and we've been playing and we've been driving and flying. Now we got to come up with a record. And that was one thing about Kim. He was always writing. He would be, if we were on a plane, he'd be writing something down, getting ideas. And then he would come to us with his ideas, and then we would just, would work them out and play them.
Yeah, that's what he was, a big writer, big arranger. And, Simmonds, who rubbed elbows with the best, such as Clapton, Jimmy Page, Rod Stewart. So it says a lot that he really got along with you.
Yeah, we got along really good. And the weird thing was, he really, most guys would do the opposite. Kim was a little eccentric, I have to say. He was in a good way. But he really didn't want to be. There was a point where he wanted to be famous. He was young and everything. But he came to a point in his life, after his brother Harry wasn't managing the band, that he just wanted to play and just play for the people and leave a legacy of good songs. And he did 42 records, plus his 4 or 5 solo records. But he was really weird. He would venture out and do different things on different records. Like you would listen to like Jack the Toad and go, where'd that come from? That isn't blues. Or Hellbound Train, that's nowhere near blues. Or Tell Mama, He would do these other songs, and then he would go back to the blues thing all the time. That was his base of writing. And I remember he wrote some songs that were really, I thought they were just, very memorable. And he would go, nope, too poppy. I would go like, okay. He goes, I never really went for that. He goes, I always played and did what I had to do. There was a series on HBO called Vinyl. Did you see that?
I did see it. That was great. I did see that.
They had, I think, was it Telmon or Street Corner Talking in the beginning of first episode. And then somewhere along they go, they were going to get rid of bands. They said, let's get rid of bands. At that time, Jack the Toad had come out. I don't know if you ever listened to that record, but I'm telling you, it's pretty. When I listened to it, I went, "What the hell were they doing at this point?" It was definitely different. Kim was definitely very much on the cutting edge a lot of times. He, I got to give him credit. He did stuff that most people would go, "No, that's a bad career move," and he would just go. And when he went for something, forget it. He wasn't stopping. This was it. He was very. He just when he had something on his mind, forget it. He was very stubborn. Tenacious, I guess, would be the word.
We're talking with Pat DeSalvo of the band Savoy Brown. So Pat, this new album, I'm going to play a little sample. I think we have the title cover. We're going to play Blues All Around. Let's hear a little bit of that, and then we can discuss a little more, okay?
Sure. Thanks, Brian.
Blues all around.
just heard Blues All Around by Savoy Brown. And, again, the release of this new album is especially touching in that it comes after the December 13th passing of band founder Pat DeSalvo, bassist of so, I mean, it's very touching album, Pat. How long did it take you to make that album?
2 days. We laid down all the basic tracks. Actually 3. 3 days actually total. First day we laid down all the rhythm tracks. Actually, we did 14 songs, and Kim had already had his guitar parts down. Then he went in, he wasn't even there the first day. He was at the Roswell Cancer Institute, so it was just me and Garnett in the studio. He came in, listened, he liked everything. There was just one song, California Days Gone By, that we had to redo our track. He had like a country feel on it, and it just didn't fit the lyrics. And he looked at me because he was getting tired the second day. The second day he put his organ part on, he redid one vocal, he put keyboards on a few songs. He played some harmonica. So that was the second day, and then the third day, I think we just listened a little bit, and that was that. So, and then we started some rough mixes. Then we just left it up to Ron and finished mixing the record. Because sometimes you get too many people in the studio, and everybody wants to hear themselves a little bit louder. Or they get, we should do this or that. And sometimes you lose focus of the record. Sometimes it's good to step back, and if you got someone you can trust, have them do the final mix and mastering.
That's incredible. In 3 days, you completed that album. I mean, there's a bunch of tracks on that album. 3 days,
I know, huh? I know. Well, all the records, I'm telling you, I'm not a great player. I'm functional. But the thing is, almost all our records were done like that. We did some records, and someone might be thinking, yeah, it sounds it. But sometimes, you just go in, you record, and we did a lot of records where we did everything basically in a day. Because we would really rehearse and get it together where we wanted it. Garnett would have metronome markings down, so we knew exactly where we wanted the tempo. We already had worked out the arrangement. We had worked out what key it was going to be in. Kim had gone over his vocals, and we would listen to that, listen to the lyrics, and make sure everything was just where we wanted it. Because it's like this. Say you go out for a real good dinner, you have that dinner. It's great at that moment, right? If you had that same dinner 15 minutes later, the impact wouldn't be the same. And it's like when you're playing a song, sometimes, you play the song and then you keep replaying it. You lose, I don't care what anybody says, you lose the groove, you lose the energy for the song, the emotion isn't there. Because now you're being repetitive, So if you can do something in one take, you try to do it in one take. The gentleman I talked about, Jimmy Cavallo.
Absolutely,
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
The guy Jimmy Cavallo was telling you about, he was in Rock. He was in some of these movies, and I learned a lot from him because he was one of the first pioneers in rock, and people really don't know that. And he would always say, "You got to do everything in one take." He goes, "This playing the song again. Why? Why would you do that? You lose the moment." It's like he was a jazzer too, so a lot of those guys, when they improvise, sometimes it's complete magic, and you're not going to duplicate that. It's going to be very hard to do that. Anybody that's out there that's a musician would understand that for sure. They would realize that, we do something the first time. It's usually, if you've worked on it, it's probably the one to go with, the take to go with.
And Pat, for everyone listening, if they want to pick up a copy of your new release, please give us the information.
Well, Amazon, iTunes, it's been there for quite a while. You can go to our website, savoybrown.com, and you can order. We got T-shirts from Looking In and Hellbound Train there, and we got coffee mugs and all that stuff. And it's really going to help Debbie. This has been tough on her on a lot of levels, dealing with Kim's illness for over a year and a half. Kim did get neuropathy. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like when your fingers stop working. And so that was really tough. But, you know, right after Kim was passing, Brian, he sent me a bunch of demos, you know, that I have. And it's weird. They just pop on out of nowhere sometimes, you know. I don't believe in any of that stuff, but every once in a while, all of a sudden, these songs pop up on my phone. It's always his demos. And I can't figure out why it's doing that. But he was still writing. He wanted to do another record. He had plans on doing that. And, you know, I give him a lot of credit. He did not complain the whole time about what was going on, even when he was under the heavy chemo and stuff. And the last couple months, he just had such a great attitude. I really admire him for that, because a lot of people, I think, would have folded. Here's a guy, he's on his deathbed, literally, he sent me demos, you know, 5 days before he had passed.
Yeah, I mean, so what does the band do now?
Picture.
Pat, what does the band do now? I mean, with Simmonds, you know, without his clean, crisp guitar.
You can't do anything. For me, it'd be like sacrilegious to think that we're going to put Savoy Brown back on. Me and Garnett are playing with a label mate on Corto Valley, Sean Chambers. And Sean was with Hubert Sumlin for a long time, and he played with Blackfoot. And he's got 8 albums out on his own. And he actually, there's a song on one of his records Kim had suggested doing, the song called Louise. So he was friends with Kim also. So I'm playing with Sean right now, and we just finally got an agent, you know, so we're going to see what happens. Last year we went to Europe for a couple of weeks. He had shows booked, and just to feel the waters out and see if it would work. And we had a great time, and we made good music, and it was effortless. So me and Garnett are now playing with him, and hopefully we'll be doing another record soon as we get songs together.
And Pat, I have about a couple of minutes left. I want to ask you, Witchy Feeling. I mean, that was the band's 20. I was going to say Witchy Feeling. Talk about that. That was your 2017 album, right? Yeah.
That was there was a good record. He had a lot of good songs, and we started working with Ben Elliott again. And Ben has worked with, like, you know, Keith Richards, Peter Green, I can go on and on, Pat Martino. He's worked with all these great guitar players, so he really was able to get, and Kim had worked with him in the past, and we just went in the studio with him. That was the first record we did. We did the 2 follow-ups after with him. He passed away also, unfortunately. But, that was just a good record. Have you listened to that record, obviously, Brian?
A couple of tracks I listened to the entire album to get a feeling for it.
Yeah, it's a really good record. And then City Nights was really another good record, I thought. The City Nights record was really good too. I thought we did a great job on that record.
Yeah, so what's down the pipeline?
We're going to be
take it away. We have a couple of minutes.
Okay. No, we're going to be doing some shows up in the Northeast in New York. Actually, we're going to Canada, and then hopefully this agent that we have, he'll start filling in dates for us. We've been playing down in Florida a lot. Me and Sean are down here. Garnett's up in New York. So that's what we're going to do, and then we're going to hopefully do another record if we got the songs. So
listen, I wish you a lot of luck with this new album, and really thank you for your time. I wish we had a better connection. I don't know if it's my fault, but I'm sorry about
Ryan,
that.
I'm sorry. I'm on my phone. I know. I apologize too. But thank you, and thanks for the support. Appreciate what you do for live music.
Absolutely, and take care of yourself.
You too. Be good. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Pat DeSalvo, Savoy Brown. Until next week, happy collecting to all.